So welcome back to another episode, and this is an old school anime episode of recommendations, and I already did an old school anime recommendations video, and people seem to like it. People were asking for more, and I was like, yeah, I got a lot of old school anime to recommend. This is the era that I grew up in, and it's one of my most fondest eras of anime, the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, but there's so much stuff to get through here today, so I'm going to try to get through it as much as I possibly can and give a little bit of a highlight of each show without getting into too much detail. The first one we're going to start off with is Black Magic M66, and I really wanted to put this one first because this is one that nobody remembers except for the old school crew, and we all know who we are. This is a wonderful OVA. There was only ever one of these made. It's based on a manga series. The guy who created Appleseed, and I actually read the comic before I saw the anime, and one of my friends down the street got a copy of it on VHS, and we went over there and I watched it, and it was like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing. You have to understand, I think this is like 1988 when I saw Black Magic for the first time, and what it's generally about is the government has created assassination robots, kind of like the Ninja Warriors, one of my favorite side-scrolling action games. They created these robots that they have one single purpose: to destroy one target. So it's kind of like Terminator in a lot of ways, and we all love Terminator. So these robots, so a plane goes down, and one of these robots escapes, one of these androids escapes, and it has one target in its mind, and that is one of the professors who created it, his daughter. And a journalist gets involved as well, and it is awesome. I'm telling you, to see these machines in action, wiping out an entire military squad, because it's a military robot. Yeah, one of them gets through. I won't talk about there's two robots that are activated, and it is so cool. And it's funny, I really like the music of it, and I didn't ever think the music was available, and I found it on YouTube. Thank God for YouTube. I typed in Black Magic music, and so cool to find that. And this is one that I really want to recommend if you can find it. I have it on DVD. I have the Japanese Laserdisc as well. If you can dig this up somewhere online, I don't think there's ever been a re-release that I know of this. Now, I've talked about this a couple of times in my anime movie recommendations, and that is Project Eiko. What is important about Project Eiko is that this influenced an entire generation of artists in America. And that sounds like, oh, really? And it's like, yeah, you have to understand, when this movie came out and was shown to American audiences in 1988, there was no DeviantArt. There was nobody drawing Japanese animation. There was a few proud and true people that were, but it wasn't widespread like it is now. Now everybody's drawing anime and putting on DeviantArt and doing their own mangas and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. But at that time, it was a very strange thing to draw Japanese animation, and I bring up Project Eiko because I remember this came out, and it was just about the show itself. It is incredible. It's three girls that are intertwined in a kind of unusual relationship. Not that kind of unusual relationship, but kind of. Two friends. One of the other girls is jealous of their friendship. But that sounds so stupid and small. This is a gigantic, almost space opera in a sense of the way, an epic science fiction adventure that takes place on Earth with state-of-the-art animation. I don't care what anybody says. The animation in Project Eiko still stands up to this day, and it is just awesome. I mean, the first time you saw 1,000 missiles getting blasted like you did in Macross, like weaving, turning into huge explosions, and the detail on the mecha, on the action, it was life-altering. It was, and I saw it in a little back room and at a comic book convention in '88, and I was totally changed. And after this kind of got into fan circles, people start to draw it, and then all of a sudden, companies start to show up. Not a lot at first, like Antarctic Press. That's a very nostalgic company for me. With Ben Dunn, was one of the first artists that really was drawing the anime style in his own comic book, and then it just spread. Then it just over the years spread, but it was an unusual thing to be drawing Japanese comics back then, or emulating the style. Everybody's like, why are you drawing the eyes so big? That was a thing that people talked about. It's so dumb. But the movie itself, please, track it down, check it out. Awesome soundtrack as well. I could spend a couple of hours talking about the significance of this movie and really getting into the story, but I'll just recommend it. I talked about this in my movie recommendations as well. Arion, the Crush of Olympus. It is a crush that we've never gotten an official release in the West. Ever. I still don't understand why. I don't know what is going on with that. And this is a wonderful story of Greek gods and Zeus and a whole bunch of things combined. It's the story of Arion, and what can I talk about here? There's so much to go on about it. I'll just recommend it. How about that? If you can track it, there is a copy on YouTube. Check it out. It's beautiful animation, really great creature designs, and just a beautiful character designer who did Gundam back in the day. So check that out. Another anime that I grew up on, and it really encompassed my fandom. I loved it so much, but if you mention this name now, nobody knows what it is, and that's a crying shame, and that is Galaforce. Does anybody remember Galaforce? Character designs by Kenichi Sanada. Wonderful mecha designs. It's another kind of, I won't say space opera, a huge space battle between a female race and an alien race, and both races have taken a massive hit. And there's not too many of them left, and there's thousands of ships, but it's from, lots of worlds have been taken out, and it's, I don't want to, I almost see, I have to stop myself because I want to get into spoilers, and I won't. It's about a group of girls that we're following, and we find out about the bigger ideas of the war. It's a real mecha action show, but there's a lot of stuff going on with the characters, and Caddy, Patty, they all have some pretty funny names. I used to have a poster of Galaforce on my wall, and this is a space battle with an unusual and interesting ending. Number 2 is my favorite. This is the second one. Number 2 is my ultimate favorite. It's got some mecha sequences in the very beginning, in the opening battle, that is so freaking fantastic. And so, yeah, highly recommend Galaforce. I do believe it's 3 parts. It's, I think, Eternal Story, Destruction, and I forget the name of the third part. The third part finalizes it. And then there's Rhea Galaforce in the future, but it's kind of related, but the first 3 is the real story of Galaforce. Now, I cannot do an old school anime recommendation without mentioning Macross, but this ain't just any old Macross. This is Macross Plus. This has got to be one of the best OVA series I really think ever made, and that's saying something. There's a lot of really good OVAs out there, and they combined them all and made a movie out of it. What is Macross Plus? It takes place years after the original Macross TV series, and of the movie, if you want to say that, and of 2012. It is really, what is it in a nutshell? It is Top Gun. The movie Top Gun in anime form. It's about 2 rival friends, both competing in separate Valkyrie fighters against each other, and about all the hostilities between them. There's a girl involved. There's an idol involved. There's a whole other huge thing involved that I won't get into. Fucking brilliant anime. Brilliant. The writing, the animation, the backgrounds, the music. Sharon Apple's music is phenomenal in this. And, standing alone, the music, just get on CD. Just automatically get it. Because it's that good. And it's only 4 OVAs, and I recommend the OVAs over the movie. The movie has some additional footage, and it's cool in its own way. But the OVAs, I find, just tell the story a little bit better. The movie has to condense it a little bit, which is unfortunate. And this is why I watch anime. This is why I am a fanatic. When I saw this, I was 21 years old. I went to England. I was staying with a friend of mine out there, and he showed me Macross Plus for the first time, and it reinvigorated my love for anime. It really did, and I just was so blown away by this, and I cannot recommend this enough. I spent a ridiculous amount of money importing the Blu-rays because Harmony Gold has a control on Macross over here, so that's why you don't have Macross on Blu-ray over here right now, and which is a crying shame. Hopefully they can license it out so everybody can experience this. There's certain times in the show when I recommend things, I'm like, this is good, Galaforce is good, all these I really stand behind this. But this is one where I would say, if you've never seen Macross Plus, just drop your linen and start your grinning. Get out there, watch this show. It will make you fucking happy. If it doesn't make you happy, I'm sad for you. I'm sorry about that. That's incredible. I don't know if you should be watching anime if you don't like Macross Plus. There's something for everyone in this. There's mecha. There's a little bit of romance stuff. A little bit of jealousy stuff. It just goes on and on, man. Just Macross. Oh boy, lots of more recommendations to go here. Here is the series, and this is a beautiful little box DVD set, and very happy to have this. I had to get the dust off it. It's been on the shelf over here for a very long time. The Irresponsible Captain Taylor. Me and Rob love this show. I remember getting VHS copies of it, subtitled, and I watched it, and it blew me away, and I loved the series. And I lent it to Rob. Rob watched it, I think, in 2 sittings, which is 25 episodes in 2 sittings. Pretty good job. It takes place in the future where, there's the Earth Armada versus an alien armada. And we have this one guy, Captain Taylor, who takes over a ship. And it's kind of like Yamato kind of thing, but he's the irresponsible captain. He's this foolish, ridiculous guy that gets into so much trouble where everybody else is very serious going, Captain, why did you do this decision? And I don't want to talk anymore about it because there's a lot of spoilers with this. Trust me on this. This is a 26 episode series. Fantastic. Really a lot of fun. Excellent animation all the way through. Funny soundtrack. And that's what I just said. It's funny. This series is really, really funny, but it has a lot of heart. Genesis Climber Mospeada. Watch this. Look at that dust coming off here. I was so happy that they released, ADVision released a nice, wonderful Japanese version of Mospeada that is not the Robotech version. That's not the next generation or the new generation. This is Mospeada, the last part in the Robotech series. And Robotech, as we know, was made up with Macross, Southern Cross, and Mospeada. And it's nice to be able to watch the original Mospeada, the original story, unaltered, the way it was originally meant to be. There's no protoculture stuff in it. Now, the story of Mospeada is a really cool one. The Earth has been taken over by the Invid, an alien race, and it's really enslaved humanity. But a lot of humanity is able to escape and gets to Mars and has, builds entire Mars bases and sets up life there. So a lot of people grow up on Mars and not on Earth. But of course, everybody's pissed off about this on Mars. They build up a huge armada with brand new technology to reclaim the Earth from the Invid. And so they make their final, attack against the Invid on Earth, and the entire forces are wiped out. Except for one man, Steek Bernard. And Steek recruits a bunch of resistance fighters. And they head on their way to Reflex Point, which is the headquarters of the Invid. And do they reclaim the Earth? What happens along the way? It's a really fantastic story. It's about a journey, really, on the way to Reflex Point and all of the humanity they meet along the way, and how some of them sell them out for, to the Invid, because the Invid has captured the Earth. And it's a great story. It's an old school anime from the very early 80s. I would highly recommend this a lot. It's a lot of fun, great mecha. Obviously, the transforming cyclones, are the highlights of the show as well. So highly recommend Mosquito. Oh my goodness. Nothing says late 90s, early 2000s like Trigun. Trigun. I'll show you some of the DVD covers that I have here. This was one of the most exciting shows I watched back then, and the reason why, it was also with Cowboy Bebop. They were getting released on DVD, and that was a huge deal. So once a month, I would go up to my local, it's called the CNL. It's a big DVD warehouse, and you go in and say, it was a really weird kind of place. I say, hey, do you have the next Trigun? And the guy's like, I'll look in the back. And he goes off for like 10 minutes. He comes back, he's like, yeah, I got the next Trigun. I'm like, awesome. And these were so expensive back then. They were like $40 each. How many episodes did they have? Yeah, they had like 4 episodes or 3. This one has 3. Yeah, they had 3 or 4 episodes on each one for $40, and that was expensive. But the story of Trigun was so compelling. This is the way to get it. This is the way to watch it back then, and it takes place in kind of like a Western kind of future. And our main guy Vash the Stampede comes in, and it really mirrors in a lot of ways the story of Captain Tyler, the bundling fool. And it has a lot of heart in there. There's a really great overarching story that gets revealed, and it ends a little quickly for my liking. It doesn't end quite the way I want it, but I really loved it. And the great thing was, back in 2000, we were walking around the Disneyland Hotel, and I ran into the creator of Trigun, and that was back then I was I still am such a fanboy. I was like, oh my god, I thought I was meeting like a Japanese god, the creator of Trigun, and so impressed. But Trigun is a lot of fun, and I don't know if it's been re-released at all. I haven't looked into it for years, but there's a good old school anime recommendation. And speaking of old school anime recommendations, there's a couple of movies, and these are I've spent a lot of money on these back in the early 2000s, and they are the Patlabor movies. The Patlabor movies, it was a TV series, an OVA, and it was 3 movies. And I have the first 2. The first 2 are my recommendation. They are my favorites of the movie series. The third one's good too. I'm not taking anything away from the third one, but the first 2 are really good. The first one really is fantastic. We're talking like a lot of money spent on the animation from the TV series and the OVAs, and it really is about a police force in the future that uses a giant, the Patlabors, these robotic police robots. Because in the future, there's a lot of companies that use laborers, which are robots for doing construction work, and there's a lot of people, a lot of workers that got drunk and would start smashing buildings in their robots, and you had to call in the police. And that's what this show is really about. But the movies take a very, very serious turn. And I have the soundtracks to both of these films. I used to sit and draw to this music all the time. And they're very, very serious movies. And the first movie especially is extremely serious. And some people might say it takes too much time to tell the story. I like the intrigue of the first movie. It's almost like an investigation, like a really slow investigation to finding what happens. And there's a big action sequence at the end. You get your payoff in the end if that's what you're looking for. Just mecha action at the end, you'll get that. But it's not really about that. It's not about the mecha. And I think some of my favorite mecha shows have never been about the mecha. The mecha is a secondary thing. It's always about the story, and the mecha is kind of like, oh, it's just part of the story. It's not, hey, there's a big robot and it destroys things. That's the story. That's not what it's about. And Patlabor is about the characters. It's about the story, and it always has been about that. And the mecha action will come later. And big recommendations of the movies. Really good stuff. Now, I just heard, look at the dust flying off here. I just heard that one of my old school favorite series, and me and my friends, me and Rob and my friend Aaron, which we call Satan, used to watch Escaflowne all the time. And I just heard that this is getting released on Blu-ray soon, and very, very excited to see that. I haven't seen this series since the late 90s. Really, I haven't put these DVDs in since, and I think I'm going to wait for the Blu-ray and watch it with Kim and experience the show all over again. And it's really a show of a girl who slips into another dimension, another world, where people use giant robots that are knights, and it's a real kind of a story of that, a medieval story with mecha, and with great character design, designs obviously, and a great story overall. And I can't wait for the Blu-rays. That's going to be cool. I'm so happy about a lot of these old school animes getting Blu-ray releases that a whole new generation can experience, and I just keep hoping that companies keep on bringing them out. And because I recommend all this stuff, and then people will say to me, well, where do I get them? And it's like, well, I think you can get this on DVD still. I think this box set's available. And most people will go to online and see if it's available for free, which I completely comprehend now. We're living in a different time. When I kind of grew up, you had to kind of buy the official releases. It was the only way to get it. Or you got VHS copies, which is really the same as downloading it when you think about it. So really not a lot has changed in that regard. It's just a lot faster to download it now. But anyways, guys, these are some of my anime recommendations. And I was looking for my copy of Riding Bean, and I'm gonna dig it up and recommend that in the future. I don't know where my DVD copy is gone. It's somewhere around here. I watched it a couple of years ago. So anyways, guys, until next time.